giving you the real from A to Z surrounding the Dallas Cowboys. News, updates, rumors, transactions, takes, and more. So strap up, Cowboys Nation, and start your day off with A to Z Sports. Live with Will Steele.
3, 2, 1.
Here we go. Good morning, good people. Welcome to A to Z Sports Live. We stream it live on YouTube. And of course, I am your host, Will Skywalker Steele. Boom! What's happening, people? What's happening on this Monday? The Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator search, it's underway. The interview starts today, and I think a leader in the pack has emerged. We're going to talk about it. Yes, indeed. Y'all see it here, Mike Zimmer. But also, other names have come out. We also have the Cowboys losing one of their guys on their staff. So we'll touch on that in the roundup as well. Plus, Jerry being Jerry. You get told some things, it doesn't surprise you, but Jerry being Jerry, so we'll discuss all of that in the roundup as well. What's good with you though, Bomb Squad?
Bomb Squad!
Special K, I see you with the rock, the rock, nod there. Crazy, he came back. Even more crazy, not came back, he came back already, but crazy that he is getting the nod at WrestleMania. But me personally, I'm not mad. The IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community, is sick. I've wanted to see this for a long time, but another discussion for another podcast, maybe at some point. Nonetheless, we'll see. How about Carmelo Hayes turning on Trick Williams? That's the bigger story to me, but that's for my wrestling heads. We'll keep this to football today. We're going to talk about this potential candidate and Mike Zimmer, and I don't think it's just like a potential candidate. I do think he has emerged as a favorite, and I'll tell you exactly why once we get into the meat and potatoes of the show. But before we get into that, we do have to address the Cowboys losing one of their guys, and I think that'll be the only one. We also have to address the other candidates in the DC search, and we have to address why Jerry Jones, I think, is spearheading this whole entire thing. And all of that will be in the roundup, y'all. All right? Don't ask me about the Pro Bowl. I didn't watch. I can care less about that. Don't ask me about the games. And the only thing I saw, and this happened to be what was it, Saturday or something, Friday? I don't know when it was the Jalen Hurts, that video going around where he couldn't hit nothing, and everybody was kind of having some fun with that. But other than that, I didn't watch a lick of the Pro Bowl. I didn't watch a second of it. I saw a couple highlights, going around on Twitter, but I have no interest in the flag football and these goofy little games they playing down there. I think they better off just saying, hey, here's a Pro Bowl. You got your nod. Go enjoy your off season. That's just how I feel about it. But Pro Bowl is not what it used to be anymore. Nonetheless, let's get into this roundup real quick. And I think we're going to have a pretty solid show here. You can call in once we break it all down, 351-999-3787. We are definitely going to be focusing specifically on that man today. And then we'll rap to y'all about how you feel about this potential hire. He hasn't been hired yet, but he will be in for an interview this week. Let's do it.
It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It's time! It is time for.
It's time for the morning roundup. Round 'em up, boys.
Let me talk to you.
We'll talk to you, Cowboys Nation, about Joe Witt Jr. getting the defensive coordinator job in Washington. Witt was scheduled to be a part of this interview process this week, possibly today. Over the next few days, they will be talking to some of these guys in-house and obviously some of them out-house. Instead, he said, you know what, man? I already know I have the Washington job in the bag. Y'all want to talk to all these people. Likely not going to get an answer till the end of the week, maybe next week because of the Super Bowl. I'm good. DQ wants to know if I want the job. He ain't waiting around. He hired Cliff Kingsbury right away, which means Eric Bieniemy's out of there. And Joe Witt said, you know what? I'll take that job, brother. I've always wanted to be a defensive coordinator. I would have loved for it to be here in Dallas. But like I said last week, it ain't up to Mike McCarthy. I think Mike would have leaned towards Witt. He still would have did interviews, I believe. But Witt couldn't wait around because like every other team that's looking to fill their coaching vacancies, they're not trying to wait 2, 3, 4 weeks to do so. Again, you got a lot of things you got to get done, especially in a new regime. Hey, who's my DC? Who's my OC? What do you guys like? Let's go out there and scout those guys. There's a sense of urgency. Nonetheless, it will not be Joe Witt Jr. He will not be interviewing. He's out of here. He's in Washington. And like I said last week, I think it was Friday, I don't particularly think the Joneses are interested in a guy like Witt anyway. They would have did the interview, but I don't think they would have hired him because they want somebody who is tenured. And the name that popped up of a guy who is tenured, y'all know me. My guy, Wink Martindale, baby. Oh, Wink. So this is the word on Wink Martindale. The Cowboys are interested in talking to Wink. There is nothing on record of Wink coming in for an interview just yet, but they do have, again, quote from what I'm being told, they are interested in talking to Wink Martindale. And this makes sense. I've said this to you guys a couple weeks ago when we brought up some candidates. I said it on Friday. Wink just makes sense. He's been a tenured defensive coordinator. He's had really good stints. He's done some good things in Baltimore. He's turned around a porous defense in New York in his first year, but butted heads with the head coach on his way out. Nonetheless, interested. Nothing set up as we speak, but they are interested. And then per reports, Jerry Jones is very involved in the hire. Is anybody surprised? This is why I don't believe you'll see a first-time defensive coordinator hired here as a defensive coordinator. Not saying that that's a requirement, by the way, because the two guys that I'm most interested in these names of floating are former defensive coordinators, right? Wink Martindale and Mike Zimmer. We'll get to that in a second. Those are guys that I'm more high on than the rest of these names being thrown out there, not named Vrabel and Belichick. That ain't happening. So it doesn't have to be a first-year guy, but Jerry and Steven are not interested in that. With that said, they're going to be doing some interviews over the next few days. Those interviews will include defensive line coach Aiden Durde. Those interviews will include Ron Rivera. And those interviews will include one Mike Zimmer, Cowboys Nation. Yes, indeed. And that's where we will focus today. I get we could, hey, what does Durde look? We don't know. Durde's never been a coordinator, but he's going to get the interview. Wink, we'll wait to see if and when Wink is brought in here for an interview. Ron Rivera, though, y'all know how I feel about Ron. I think it's down to probably Zim, Ron, and Wink if you're looking at tenured guys. But they haven't brought in Wink yet. But Zim and Ron will be brought in this week. I would lean way more towards Zim, and we're going to discuss that today. Are these the sexy names? Are these the big names everybody may have wanted? No, but one of them might be the name you need. But this is what happens when you're left with the best of the rest, right? And this is why, to me, I would have loved for this whole Dan Quinn thing to get figured out sooner rather than later. The Cowboys are days into February figuring out, how to fill the rest of their rosters from a coaching staff standpoint. And hey, whomever they decide to bring in may not want some of these dudes. And depending who that person is, the Joneses may acquiesce to that, which means they don't care what Mike McCarthy thinks. Yeah. I've been told on Mike Zimmer that this is possibly being pushed by the Joneses. again, does not surprise me at all. Mike Zimmer has a history with them, and we'll get to that in a second. But I also don't necessarily think McCarthy is comfortable with it. He may not have a choice. He may not have a choice. And some could argue, well, we don't want McCarthy picking him. Look at what happened with Mike Nolan, right? Nonetheless, this organization is not run like another organization where your coach is going to hire his staff. If the Joneses or Jerry, who's very involved with this hire, doesn't want to give that power to said coach, he won't. We know that. This is not new. Jason, Wade, you got Jason. Kellen, McCarthy, you got Kellen. Right? They'll handpick their guys. Don't give a damn about your coach. And that seems to be the wave right now. Mike Zimmer. And that's why I believe at this moment, he's the leading candidate to be the Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. Not only because of his history with the team and the Joneses, but he has a good history calling defenses as well. Let's take a look at Mike Zimmer's history over the year. Who is Mike Zimmer? Cowboys fans should be very familiar with Mike. If you are an old school fan, maybe if you're a younger fan, you might not be. And we have a lot of younger fans here. Mike started off his NFL career in Dallas in 94 as an assistant, but he also was on that 95 Super Bowl staff as a defensive backs coach. That eventually turned into a defensive coordinator gig for the Cowboys under Dave Campo and Bill Parcells. He did that for 7 seasons between 2000 and 2006. And during that time, we've always had good defenses for the most part, respectable ones at the very least, under Zim. But during that time when they hired Bill, Bill came in and said, hey, we're switching to 3-4. I'm a 3-4 coach, right? But he kept Zim. He respected Zim enough to keep him. And Zim switched from a 4-3 to a 3-4. Mind you, at that point in time in the NFL, that was a big deal. Nowadays, it's like nobody's really running a 3-4-4 like a traditional. We talked about this last week. Base is mostly nickel. Back then, that wasn't the case. So he kept Zim around, and he switched from 4-3 to 3-4, and I thought he did so very respectable. He had the Cowboys at one point, the best defense in the league the very first year doing it, but respectable defenses throughout. That eventually, when Bill Parcells left, they hired Wade Phillips. Wade Phillips wanted to do his own thing. He went on for 1 season to Atlanta, and I don't know if you guys remember that infamous season. Anybody remember Bobby Petrino? It's like a blip in NFL history, but I almost remember it vividly. The note being left on the door, hey, y'all, I quit. I can't do this. Bobby Petrino goes back to college, and the rest is history. And he just kind of years ago had another scandal in college, but Bobby Petrino, man. Nonetheless, Zim took over that gig for 1 season. And then after that, the gig that most of you guys are familiar with as a defensive coordinator, if you don't remember him in Dallas, is the Cincinnati Bengals defensive coordinator gig, where he worked under Marvin Lewis for 6 seasons. And most of those seasons, the Bengals defenses were really damn good. Really good. In fact, there's a video going around from the time he was in Cincy that kind of pretty much describes who Zimmer is. Likely more so as a DC. He was a hard ass as a head coach as well, but as a head coach, you got to wear so many hats. As a DC, you can just focus directly on your unit. This is the clip that's going around on Twitter about when Mike Zimmer was with the Bengals.
Damn it, that's horse shit. If we get a press G, you get your fucking ass outside and get it contained. Okay? I told you this quarterback runs. Keep him in the pocket. You got me? You better quit bullshitting around. I'm not having this bullshit. Better get your minds right, or I'll get them right for you.
Hey, Zim ain't with the BS. This clip went viral on Twitter, and it basically explains who he is as a DC. Now, these kids now, dude, a little different. I don't know how different Zim would be, but I do know he was, in a way, like that with the Vikings. So his successful stint as defensive coordinator parlayed that into a head coaching gig with the Vikings, where he was with Minnesota for 8 seasons. And over half of those years, their defense was either top flight or respectable. Top flight or respectable. By the way, ended up taking Case Keenum to an NFC Championship game where they got blown out by Philly, and Philly went on to win the Super Bowl. But it did not end greatly in Minnesota. Their general manager, Spielman, and Zimmer both were let go in 2021. So he's only 1 year removed from the game, right? Well, 2 technically. He didn't coach 2 years, 2022, 2023 season. So he's not that far removed from the game. But certain parts of it in regards to the psychology of the game may have passed him by as a head coach, because it ended sour there in Minnesota, right? Players, not a player coach. And I'm fine with that, by the way. I talked about Joe Witt. I said, hey, look, Joe Witt's a no-nonsense guy. I think that'd be welcome in this day and age. A lot of players probably won't like this dude. I don't care. You know what I'm saying? Because Zim knows defense. And we're going to get to that here in a second. From 2010 to 2021, before he left, 7 out of those 12 seasons, his defense is ranked in the top 10 in DVOA. So this isn't a Ron Rivera situation. With all due respect to Ron Rivera, Ron Rivera hasn't overseen or called a defense for a season since he was with the Chargers. That's like in 2010. Zim's been running defenses his whole entire life in the NFL, essentially. So that's why, to me, I lean, well, that's one of the reasons. We're going to get into some film and some numbers. That's one of the reasons why I lean way more into Mike Zimmer than Ron Rivera, with all due respect to Ron Rivera. Well, what are some of the numbers? Shouts out to my guy, Mo. He dropped this one on Twitter the other day, and this is the passing and rushing defense, an EPA per play from 2017 to 2021. So the last 5 seasons he was with Minnesota. And if you look there, the Vikings were a top team in both rushing EPA per play allowed and drop back EPA per play allowed. Number 2 in both categories, if I'm not mistaken. We all know the Cowboys can rush the passer. They've done that well under Dan Quinn. Now, it's fizzled out at times, but it was about stopping the run. And Zimmer can put an emphasis on that. But not only just that, man. What is his calling card? It's out there now. But if you didn't know, the double A gap looks, right? Getting creative in coverage on the back end. Very similar to a guy that I bring up here to you guys a lot. I talk about Jim Johnson, right? These dudes aren't that far apart from each other when it comes to their style of defense. When you think about Zim in Minnesota and Cincy, you think about these guys mugging the A-gaps. You think about Dexter Coakley and Dat Wynn mugging it, right? You think about those guys up there. When you think about Jim Johnson and his defenses, Jeremiah Trotter and them boys mugging the A-gaps and creative coverages on the back end and creating chaos and confusion with the quarterback. There's another video going out there, and this one is a really good one. I mean, not saying that the other one wasn't, but this is more of an educational one for those who are not familiar with Mike Zimmer and his style of defense. And it was John Gruden breaking down what Zimmer does, and in the only way that John Gruden could. So take a look and listen, if you can't see, to John Gruden breaking down Zimmer's defense.
What really makes the Vikings special is Mike Zimmer's double A package. And what he does is he takes his 2 inside linebackers, Barr and Kendricks, and instead of lining them up in a normal alignment, he puts them in the A gap between the center and the guard. Then he takes his free safety, Harrison Smith, and he lines him up on the line of scrimmage. Then he takes his nickel corner and he puts him on the line of scrimmage on the strong side. So now they got 4 defenders on one side of the center, and they got 4 defenders on the other side of the center. It's Mike Zimmer's double A package. He did it in Cincinnati, he's doing it in Minnesota, and he's ripping people. A lot of the times, his 2 inside linebackers, they act like they're blitzing, but they bluff, and they run out of here and they play coverage. The free safety's acting like he's blitzing, and he bluffs, and he runs and covers the flat. The nickel is acting like he's blitzing, and he drops into the flat. Well, the next time you think they're bluffing, they bring them both. Or they bring one, and they bring him, and they bring 4 to his side. They got about 25 different things that they can do. I love watching these guys because they raise all kind of hell. They really do.
Appreciate you for that, John Gruden. We know he's under fire, by the way. Yeah, they raise all kinds of hell. You love to hear that. But here are some of the things that, through my digging on Zim, here are some of the things that he also has been known for or has adapted to, right? We talk about the split mug fronts. That's basically the double A gap stuff we're seeing from John Gruden. Pattern matching. I mean, how many times have we said that here? None. No offense to Dan Quinn. And combo coverages on the back end. A lot is not made of his coverage packages. We talk a whole bunch about what he does with his backers, and that's the discussion we may have at the end of this situation here, where he's also going to bring back linebackers. And you're not going to see safeties out there playing linebacker. That's just not something that he wants to do. But when we jump into the film room real quick here, I want to take a look at all 3 of these things. Starting off with the double A gap stuff, right? The split mug fronts. That is his calling card. He'll bring his 2 linebackers up there like John Gruden said. They'll mug the A gaps, and sometimes they'll blitz them, they'll fake them, they'll twist, they'll stunt, they'll bail. They'll do all types of different things with those backers, and it puts a ton of pressure on the center, who's usually responsible for the call, right? Or who's usually a key help guy. And this is just an example of it. Kendricks fakes the blitz, or actually blitzes, and it's Barrow fakes the blitz, and the center steps to that right. So again, like we talked about, this puts a lot of pressure on your center to make a decision. And if he makes the wrong decision, you can get an easy pressure, you can get a free look, you can get guys being confused. But Barr drops back here. Kendricks is one-on-one with the linebacker, get a free blitzer in Harrison Smith, and you cause, this was a fumble, but I don't know if they ruled it a fumble. Nonetheless, you cause confusion with, I think that was Matt Stafford at the point. But on the back end, right, because the blitzing and all that stuff is cool on the front end, but if you don't have it covered on the back end, or if you're not at least creative on the back end, then we saw what happened in Dallas, right? Like if you don't get home, then they can just tear you up if you just playing soft back there. But on the back end, you get a 2 read here. You have these corners. A lot of the times they're going to play some form of zone coverage on the back end, and it's going to require these guys to be a little smart. But you're basically having a 2 read on this side where the 1 and number 2 wide receiver, the nickel, is going to read the number 2 receiver, and so is the boundary guy first. Depending what they do is how they react. That's the pattern matching of this whole entire thing. The nickel picks up 1, number 2 releases outside, so the nickel picks him up. And if you look at, I think this was, like I said, Matt Stafford. Matt wants to go right here. But because of this, he can't. So he pulls the ball down, takes a sack or an incomplete, whatever they decide to call it. And that's some of the confusion that Mike Zimmer can give you on the back end as well as the front end. Now, we talked about pattern matching, right? And this is a cover 3 pattern matching play right here. And what makes this interesting is that normally in zones, as defenders, you're taught to just spot drop, right? I'm getting to a spot. That's where I'm at no matter what. But with pattern matching, you tell the defender to keep their eyes on the receiver to match what route they're going to do. I don't think we saw this much at all in Dallas. We were one of the heaviest man type of teams, and it is what it is. That was our defense. But again, this is more nuance in the coverage. This is also called RIP. Shouts out to my guy, Ted Wynn. This is also called RIP, which I believe is Nick Saban does. So Harrison Smith becomes the 8th defender in the box, and all of number 2 vertical and out from this. You can't see. I don't know if you can see it here. Yeah, you can see it. From this corner, they're going to read, again, like they always do, the number 2 receiver. Well, they have a new number 2. You see the corner here. He's going to sit and decide what he's going to do. If this cornerback or if this wide receiver runs out and he runs a deep, he's going to follow him, but he doesn't. This wide receiver runs a vertical, kind of a 7 actually, and he misses it. And here's why he misses it. If you go back just a little bit, this is where Drew Brees wants to go, but he knows nothing is really here because this guy's sitting and he's waiting for, I can't remember which wide receiver this is, to finish his route. Nothing's there. He has to hold the ball. Hold the ball, misses the guy. And now we're going to try to hit this breakdown play. You guys can't see it. Let me go back here. We're going to try to hit this guy deep. And this gives a shot for the actual safety to make a play here. So again, on the back end, you got some pattern matching going. And then finally, the combo coverages. I really don't know how many times Dallas did this. Dallas was always just running what they run, which is normally some simple cover 1 man almost 90% of the damn time, or cover 3. What is interesting about Zim is he's shown the ability to adapt, especially in Minnesota. He gets annoyed when people figure things out. So what he does is he'll do some combo coverages. And on this play, on one side, he's playing cover 4 to the weak side, and then he's playing cover 2 to the strong side. And this, once again, confuses Matt Stafford and makes him come off of his read. And his read, he wants this tight end down here. I'm going to pause it right here. He wants his tight end on the out. But if you look at this cornerback down here, he's playing it. So he'll drops off to number 1 and he gets his eyes on the tight end. So if his eyes are here, he knows I have nothing really. So he comes off of it, which causes Matt Stafford to go to the other side, and there's nothing there. So he takes off. Eventually, he pitches the ball, and there's a fumble. So, in these 3 plays, you're seeing combo coverages, you're seeing pattern matching, and you see the split front or the split mug front, which he does a whole lot of. But I know he gets a lot of love for the whole split mug front, but I really like what he does on the back end as well. It's not just basic stuff. And look, no offense to Dan Quinn, because Dan Quinn did some great things here in Dallas. I mean, look, I'm not sitting here trying to knock Dan, but I didn't see these type of things on a consistent basis. I didn't even necessarily see a whole bunch of adapting, right? We talked about that in the playoffs, right? You could say, well, Scott, he did adapt. He adapted his whole damn scheme at the beginning of that game and got whooped. Fair enough. But where was Dan Quinn working on these things during the season? He wasn't. That's why he was getting whooped against teams that had adequate schemes or adequate offensive coordinators and solid run games for the most part. But Zim is a defensive coordinator's defensive coordinator. He lives, breathes it. He's a guy who's been more of a defensive coordinator in his life than he's been a head coach. He's been out of football. I know a lot of people don't necessarily like the old guy and whatnot. Again, I'm not afraid or opposed to a tenured guy as long as that tenured guy is good. And Zim is shown to be a good defensive mind. Point blank, period. Now the question kind of now turns to who would benefit from a Mike Zimmer hire if he is the guy. I think a guy like Osa and Mozzie would. If you remember his time in Cincinnati, there was Geno Atkins, who we helped turn into one of them top 3 tech guys. Not that far off from Bills. Now Osa's different. He's like 285 or whatever. Geno was 6'1", 300, but penetrating 3 tech guys. He took Geno to new heights. Geno became an all-pro, Pro Bowl type under Mike Zimmer. I think a guy like Mozzie, I think of Linval Joseph when I think about defensive tackles, big guys, 1 tech types that he had some success with in Minnesota. Now, you would hope that they'd put Mozzie not on the Atkins diet, the Geno Atkins diet, but they put him on get that weight back. I don't know what happened. We still don't know. Nobody's coming out saying anything, but he lost too much damn weight. I don't get what that was about. Mozzie ain't going nowhere. He's a rookie. No one's writing Mozzie off. But if there's a guy that I think come in here and help him out, it's him, I think, could do that. So Osa, when I think about up front, Osa, Mozzie, Sam. I think Sam could use a coach like Zim. I feel like Sam needs that tough love direction, 100%. I think you need Sam Williams pissed off and focused, not preparing for victory parties. You think Mike Zimmer? You think this guy would be for that?
Damn it, that's horse shit. If we get a press G, you get your ass outside and get it contained, okay? I told you this quarterback runs. Keep him in the pocket. You got me? You better quit bullshitting around. I'm not having this bullshit. Better get your minds right, or I'll get them right for you.
Hey, Coach, I got a party to attend to tomorrow, man. I don't think I can. Hey, you better get your mind right. I ain't with this bull. You stupid mother. But Coach, they got the champagne. I don't give up. Hey, man, he might need a little bit of that. Who else do I think could benefit from a Zimmer hire? I think the safeties could. I think the safeties could benefit. More specifically, I mean, all of them really, but Donovan Wilson, right? Dono, look, y'all, he's a heat-seeking missile. He wants to destroy dudes. He wants to blitz. He didn't get a chance to do all that this year. I don't know why. I don't know what Dan did with Dono in pulling him back. But that wasn't the Dono I was used to seeing. Now he ended up making plays later in the season, but Dono's a heat-seeking. He's a kamikaze, man. Let him be that way. Zim will blitz his ass. Zim will use him as the overhang and say, all right, if you want to run these crossers, Dono was waiting right there to take your head off. Okay, you want to pitch it or you want to dump it off to a tight end or run it back out the backfield, Dono right there waiting to take your head off. I think Zim could use him like that. I also think Malik Hooker, Wanye Thomas, who I believe are like your free safety types, I think they could benefit because you're going to get a lot more quarters behind that A gap. You're going to get a whole lot more split fields, meaning Hooker and Wanye are responsible for just one side of the field, not, hey, put me on the roof and I got to deal with these coordinators making our corners and Dan put them in a blender. Now my safety really he's out of position all the time because you just take advantage of whichever way he goes, as opposed to I got halves. It's my half. We've seen Hooker be able to do that. We've seen, and Wanye, I think, is a smart dude. I think Malik and Wanye have high football IQs from a coverage standpoint. I think he'd help those guys 100%. Maybe you could argue Bell could do some of the Dono role too, but I do think they would benefit from having Zim and his specific style, his specific scheme. What about linebackers? Zim will go get some. I think he would have to, y'all. I think in this defense, if you want to spearhead, fast track Zimmer's scheme in year one, there's only one guy on the roster that I think can do what Zim wants to do, and that's Micah. And I don't know that they'll put him at linebacker. So in my opinion, if they were to hire Mike Zimmer, Dallas would 100% have to go out and get some veteran linebackers that are still good. We just don't want to just get any old linebacker, but get some veteran linebackers that can handle this type of scheme at the second level. At least one. I mean, you also got to draft a couple too, or one or two. But at the very least, you got to bring in at least one guy. Maybe you could even argue bring in multiple. You go look in Kansas City, they don't just got one or two, but they got like 3 or 4 of those dudes, man, to the point where, all right, Willie Gay's out of there, Tranquil steps right in. Bolt, right? Before that, it was Hitchens and Wilson. I think Dallas is going to need at least 4 linebackers. I'm not talking about safeties, not Keanu Neal dropping down, not Marquise Bell dropping down, not Jaron Curse dropping. I'm not talking about none of that. Linebackers. So guys like, and you may not like these names, but Azeez Al-Shaair, Bobby Wagner, Levante. I know they're old in the tooth, but I'd like to have one of those dudes there to help with this room, right? I'd even take a Blake Cashman who had a good year in Houston. Josie Jewell. I think you're going to need Willie Gay. You're going to need real linebackers, y'all. Accompany these veteran types with one of these top flight rooks. I'm down with that. But you absolutely cannot go into a season. I don't give a damn if it's Zimmer's defense or Bill Belichick's defense. You can't go in there and say your Marquise Bells are backer, DeMarvion Overshown, and Damone Clark, and we're not going to address it. Cannot happen. I don't care what scheme you do, but it's definitely in this scheme because this scheme requires, I think, guys that are more versatile. So, and versatility doesn't necessarily mean, coverage and defend the run. Versatility can mean I'm physically gifted and I got it up here as well to handle what you want me to do. And we're going to do, maybe this will be next week as we finish up our hindsight series this week. We're going to do a free agent primer on linebacker. And there's a good bit of them that the Cowboys absolutely, I just named you pretty much all of them, but there's a good bit of them the Cowboys should be on without a shadow of a doubt. The one I'm pissed off about that we didn't get this year was Azeez Al-Shaair. I had you see the contract he got, what was it, with the Titans? How are you not in on that? David Long Jr. goes to Miami for that. And you say no. Like, I'm just a fan on YouTube or Twitter or however you're watching me. And I can see these dudes are better than the guys we got. And for cheap. Well, they got exposed this year, so hopefully they will have more of an emphasis on the position. I know, though, this man will 100% put an emphasis on the position. Without a doubt. He will not be rolling out safeties at linebacker. He will not be rolling out 6 defensive backs against big formations. Again, we can poo-poo the older guys all you want, but guys like this that come from, that specific time, they will 100% match personnel. You roll out in 13 or 12, you think he gonna roll out there with 6 defensive backs? With one of your defensive backs playing middle linebacker? Ain't no way, man. Ain't no way. But when I look at this, we've seen the mug a few times with Dan, so that doesn't. But the pattern matching and the combo coverages to me excite me even more than the double A gap stuff. Because look, I mean that's all fine and dandy, and a lot of teams are 100% adopting the same thing. You go look in Baltimore. You see 8 guys in line of scrimmage and a whole bunch of guys falling back. That isn't innovative, and I'm not saying that Zim has to be innovative. But from even Dallas, right? Everybody standing up at the line of scrimmage. We've seen it. But we necessarily didn't see a whole bunch of pattern matching. We didn't see a whole bunch of combo coverages and running one thing on this side, another on the other. It was pretty much you see what you get here. Now, the hope is that with Zimmer being out, and I know he did an interview with Tom Pelissero, and I know a lot of people are not going to want to hear, oh, yeah, I sat out, I watched film, and I took a look at analytics, because that's what happened with Mike McCarthy. But you still do hope that with the game always changing, advancing, adapting, you would hope he does as well as he sat out. But from a DC standpoint, if he does come back to Dallas, I do think he would be a good hire from a DC standpoint. Is that something that Mike McCarthy would want? Probably not. Will it be Mike McCarthy's decision? Probably not. I don't think it will be. I think this will be a Jerry Jones thing, and I think this man has the fast track, inside track to be the Cowboys defensive coordinator. We will see what happens over the next few days. Maybe Ron Rivera goes in there. Maybe Ron Rivera wins him over. Technically, Aiden Durde is setting up for an interview as well. I don't see this happen. I also don't see Al Harris happening. And if that happens, one or two things have happened. Either they absolutely blown these guys away, and Mike McCarthy vouched for them heavily. But I don't necessarily know I even want either one of these guys to be the defensive coordinator. I think Al, you keep Al as a cornerbacks coach. Let him work with whoever the guy that's brought in. We know that Al has shown the ability to be versatile in scheme and different coordinators. Yeah, Mike Nolan was his first one. It was only 1 year. He also worked, I believe, in Kansas City. I think under Spags. I'm not sure if it was with Spags or not. I think it might have been. And then obviously with Dan Quinn. So I think he's going to coach his cornerbacks up the way they need to be coached. He's a guy that's played in multiple schemes, etc. I just think Durde, Al is not up for an interview at this moment. So he's here because he's a candidate. But Durde is up for an interview. And I just think this is more of a formality. I don't think they will go with him. This will be more of a 10-year defense coordinator, maybe former head coach. So, yeah, Al said that 6081 boy. The problem is he's under contract. And the only way he would have been able to go with Dan Quinn is in the same route that Joe Witt just went with Dan Quinn, a promotion to defensive coordinator. And he's not getting the promotion. And I highly doubt that Dallas is going to grant him, if he were to ask permission to go to Washington, which I don't think he will. I think Al I don't think he'll say, hey, let me out of my contract to go to Washington. I think he has a great relationship with the cornerbacks here, and he's coached them up very well, and he's happy to stay here. I remember I said this on Friday. I don't think Al wants to be a defensive coordinator or is looking to be one just yet. Hence why I said, hell, I'll go with him and do whatever he asked me to do, if that's a possibility. But it's not anymore unless Dallas says, oh, well, we can fire you. We'll fire you, Al. Go with them. I'll be shocked if he wants to leave Dallas. That's the only way he can. He can't take Al Harris, just like he technically can't take Aiden Durde either, unless the Cowboys get rid of him. And whoever comes in, whether it's Zimmer, whether it's Rivera, whether it's Wink, whoever the hell it is, if they say, yeah, we don't want Durde, we don't want Al, we don't want Scott McCurley, I don't want any of these guys, then the Joneses grant that defensive coordinator's wishes and fires them, then they're free to go wherever they want. But if this new defensive coordinator comes in and says, all right, we can keep that one. Defensive line room really gets with Aiden Durde. He really has them. I will keep him. Al and this, look, I don't want to touch that. You know what he's doing over there. He can keep them. Then, yeah, they'll be here. But it cannot be a lateral move. Yeah. With all of that said, I haven't really got a chance to get you guys' opinion on Zim. You've heard mine of the names that are being put out there. Because, again, we're late in the process here, y'all. They're the Jesse Mentors, and even Leslie Frazier is gone. Even, I think, Steve Belichick is interviewing with, like, a college team or something. A lot of these names are gone. Denard Wilson. Most teams have filled their positions. You're down to the best of the rest. And for me, the best of the rest is Zimmer and Wink. Those are my guys. But are you in or are you out on Mike Zimmer, Cowboys Nation? And while y'all do that, let me go ahead, read a couple of these super chats and talk to y'all. 25
Super chat.
25 FRK 180. Appreciate you. Dropped 5 and said, love the show. Keep doing your thing, sir. Thank you, good sir. Appreciate that. Sidney Jones. Sidney Jones? Wasn't he DB? I know Sidney Brown, too. Drop 5 said, is Vrabel not an option for DC, or am I missing something? It doesn't seem like he is an option for DC. I mean, he's a name, but I haven't heard anything about Vrabel being a legitimate option here in Dallas. But Would that be I mean, look, Vrabel will probably be one of those hires where Mike McCarthy would also be uncomfortable. Because, again, lame duck year, 1 year deal. A guy like Vrabel 100% is auditioning for the head coach job. You get Vrabel in here 100%. How many years was Vrabel? Let's see something real quick. How many years was Vrabel a defensive coordinator? 1 season. Interesting. Now, he has a defensive background. He didn't call the defense, I don't believe, in wait a minute. Hey, yo, if you go to Wiki, right? Let me see if I can show y'all this. Hold up, bro. They tripping on here. 1 second here. 1 second. Unless y'all got some breaking news, these guys are tripping on this here Wikipedia. Let me know if y'all can see this. Oh, y'all can't. Hold up. Y'all got to see this. There we go. It might look blurry on y'all end. But that says Dallas Cowboys defensive coordinator. What the? This is why Wikipedia sometimes, bro. He's not. Is there breaking news? Did I miss something here? Hold up. According to Wikipedia, Mike Vrabel is the Cowboys defensive coordinator. What? Did I miss that? Come on, y'all supposed to be looking out for it, brother. Y'all know I can't do the show and watch the news and everything. I gotta let me know. Apparently, Mike Vrabel to DC. We'll see about that. But so yeah, Sidney Jones says, is he not an option or am I missing something? Again, it hasn't been an option through reporters, through people behind the scenes. But he's a name. He's out there. He's obviously a guy that could easily be attainable. I would say easily. I feel like if you were to get Vrabel, you'd have to hit him with the, hey, Mike, if things go south, you could be next in line. And that's right up the Cowboys' alley. Come on now. That's wild, man. All right, let's take a couple calls. What's up with your Professor X?
Hey, how's it going, Sky?
I'm good. How are you?
Good. I think the choice is going to probably be Mike Zimmer because Jerry Jones is familiar with him.
He is
over the years, and didn't you? Wasn't his best years with Mike Zimmer as defensive coach? Or am I wrong?
Whose best years? Jerry?
Yeah, when Mike Zimmer was the head coach here.
Well, he was a defensive coordinator.
Not head coach, defensive coordinator. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it wasn't the best years. It was actually some of our worst, but that was only half the time. Half the time under Campo, and then he got the defense. I mean, he remained defensive coordinator with Bill Parcells, and he had some good years with Bill. So yeah, he has a long history. He was with Dallas in the early '90s. He was on the staff when they won the Super Bowl, so he's got a long history. And again, from what I'm being told, the Joneses are possibly pushing for Zim here.
Yeah, it makes sense. The weakness of this team was stopping the run. I mean, when we played the 49ers, I think Kyle Shanahan was pretty familiar with Dan Quinn's scheme, and that's why we kind of got blown out. He identified everything he was running. I don't know, just seemed like Kyle Shanahan knew Dan Quinn's plan, I guess.
He's apparently has good a good record against some of these Shanahan guys. So when I say record, I mean resume. He's done well, one of the better guys against it, and I bet because it's not some weird quirky defense. It's a very sound, disciplined defense, and you need that.
Right. Yeah. Who do you think we're gonna draft with our pick? What are your guys?
Who do I think we're going to draft?
Yeah.
It's way too early, brother. It's way too early for that. We asked me this in when's the draft, y'all? May, late April, early May. Ask me this the last couple weeks right before the draft. We'll have a better understanding. We'll get the interviews. We get the 30 visits. Who these guys spoke with at the combine. Obviously, some of the report. This Lions season, you got to be worried about the reports, but even those will be coming out. So, I can't give you an answer on that, man. It's about 5 different positions they could take here early.
Yeah. You afraid of the potential Caleb Williams to the Commanders and Dan Quinn running the defense with Joe Witt?
Afraid? No.
Yeah.
I mean, I like the kid in college or whatever, but I'm never afraid of any rookie quarterback coming out until where do they get drafted? Who's their coaches? What guys are around them? You can be you can be the golden child, right? You can be the next best thing in Trevor Lawrence, but depending where you go, it might not matter. So, and we have no idea what Dan Quinn and them are going to do for whoever the quarterback is in Washington. Now, if he goes there and after a couple years he's amazing, great. And maybe you can say I'm worried about that, but I'm not worried about a rookie quarterback coming out.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Guy.
Yep, appreciate you. Oh man, let's get to a guy we haven't talked to in a long time, man. Old Sonny. Good morning, Sonny.
How about them Cowboys? Hey, tell me why Michael Parsons didn't get 30 sacks. How many times did he get held? How many times was he held? Actually, if he didn't get held, he would have had a lot of sacks. You guys know that.
Yeah, we do. We do
I
know.
mean, I was pretty right on, but they held him. They triple teamed him. They double teamed him. You know, they just don't want the Cowboys to win.
Yeah.
I think it's a fierce. But anyways, hey, you know, I lost thought now. But Dan Quinn going to Washington. What's going to happen when we play them? What do you think? What do you think that first meeting? When is that first game going to be? Do we know?
No,
yeah.
The schedules won't drop. I think till like mid-April.
Well, they already got. How come their schedule's already out for certain teams? I see on YouTube.
No, we know.
They got an idea. They don't know when they're playing, but they know who they're going to be playing.
Well,
they don't know how.
Right. You asked when were they playing though, so you know who you're playing. You just don't know when they're playing. So that's not till April, Sonny.
That's going to be an interesting situation when we play against Washington, isn't it?
Washington and Philly, right? Because Kellen Moore's over there. Yeah.
How do you think our team's going to react to? I think, hey, this is our year coming up. We're going to the Super Bowl. Hey, we didn't get 30 sacks. Okay, I realize that. But, hey, I didn't project Michael Parsons getting held either. You know, if you told me they could triple team and double team him, I would have said, well, no, you might have only had 15 sacks. Then.
You thought they
but
weren't
going
to?
They could let you.
You ain't think they was going to triple and double team Micah? Huh.
Oh, you know they are, dude.
Yeah.
You know they are.
I did.
And that CD Lamb, you know, it's like the Ravens and all that. You know, I've been sent back. I haven't called in a while and stuff. Just like the Ravens, you get these goddamn diva players. That's like what Kansas City was trying to give the Ravens that football game. They said, "Hey, if you don't want to take it, I guess we have no choice but to take it." You know. But hey, I look for the Kansas City to probably beat 49ers.
Ooh,
they got their number picked. They played them pretty good.
I might break down that game a little bit at the end of the week. Just
but
for some fun.
and as far as draft goes, it's it's still down the road, but we really need to start thinking about how we're going to build up our offensive line. And that game against L.A. Rams, I don't know what the hell happened, but I blame the defense. If the defense could have got some stops, could have matched the whatever you say, match the high thing for that game when it started, I think Dak would have settled down. Our offense would have settled down.
Yeah.
We could have stopped him maybe 2 or 3 plays. Instead of giving up 21 points, what it was, it could have been just like maybe 14-0, or instead of 21 or whatever it was right away.
Yeah, Sonny. If
I think it might have been a better game.
I agree. You know, that's what happened across the whole playoff.
You know, we're beat up. We beat up, honestly. Our offensive line was pretty, you know, and Cooks wasn't, you know, he was okay. I'm not saying he was bad, but really, we really had a good team. And, hey, I looked for McCarthy. You know, hey, at least we're 12 and whatever every year. Hey, it's better than what we used to be. We're going to eventually break one of these open. We got to. It's just, you know.
Yeah. Got to catch that lightning in the bottle.
Year.
Yeah. Yeah. Sonny,
you know.
Sonny's like the prototypical this is our year Cowboy fan, right? When they talk about this is our year Cowboy fan, they're talking about Sonny. And Sonny say, hey, I'm here for it.
Brother.
I'm here for it. I dig it. I can dig it.
Yeah, yeah. Hey, what time does Vosh? You going to be on with him today? What time do you guys go on at?
I believe so. About 3:15 Central. So I don't know if you on the Eastern or are you on the West
I'm
Coast?
Over here in Colorado.
That's Mountain Time. Shit, ain't that Mountain Time?
Yeah, that's right. Now it's almost 9 o'clock. It's like.
So it's 8:40 something over there.
Quarter to 9.
So it'll be about 2:15 your time, Sonny.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It'll be 3:15 my time.
It'll be about 2:15 your time. 3:15 you're gonna miss half the show. 2:15.
Oh, okay.
About 2:15, Sonny. Your time.
But hey, keep your heads up. We're gonna be in it. We're gonna get there.
100%.
We're gonna get there. I think Dak's gonna really come out really good, and
it's February. But
there's a lot. There's a lot of things that are gonna happen. I'm looking forward to what's gonna happen when we play against Washington.
Yeah, Washington is definitely going to be a very interesting game.
Who do you think's going to have the upper hand, McCarthy or
That's a good one. You know, I would have.
Or what dumbass went over there to him, our coach,
Dan
our
Quinn.
business. I can't even think of his name now that he left the team. I don't even want to.
And now that he over there in Washington.
He's an asshole.
Yeah.
He's an a-hole. I don't want to say an asshole,
That's
but
fine,
an a-hole. Not even going to Washington.
Yeah.
I wouldn't have minded him went to another division, but not to go to the same division that we were in.
That's fine.
I realize it's a career thing type deal, but still that's and this shit signing uniforms and all that. These goddamn guys got to get away from that.
The way you said that is.
I mean, wait till the end of the year and then be buddies, but you got to have that killer instinct.
Yeah.
You know, like
New
playing
age,
that
man.
goddamn flag football. What kind of bullshit's that? You know, it makes there's a lot of people I know now, Styler, that don't even watch football because of the way it is.
Oh,
I had friends over, and they watch you. I had them watch you.
I appreciate that,
Bosch, and they really like the way you talk about. I had one friend of mine named Doug. He agrees with a lot of stuff you talk about. Yeah, Doug does. Like you and Bosch break down.
Me and
really,
Bosch? Yeah.
Yeah, you and Bosch both. You guys are both right on. I'm not saying, the other guys are good creators too, though.
Sonny done took a couple of
Then that Rodriguez kid, that young kid that comes on during the evening, he's pretty good.
Yeah, Mo is pretty good, Sonny. We appreciate the love.
You guys are all good.
Thank you, sir.
But hey, I love you guys, and hey, just gotta keep our heads up.
Gotta keep our heads up.
Next year, we're gonna be there next year.
We are. Well,
we will be.
I hope
we
so.
will be.
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
We will be.
Thank you. Me, Vosh, and Rodriguez, we all appreciate the love. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, we'll be there.
See you, Sonny. Have a good one, brother.
All right. Talk to you later, my friend.
You know, when you don't hear from Sonny since the beginning of the season, we gotta just gotta talk to him a little bit, man. Gotta talk to him, Appreciate you, Sonny. I will pass the message along to Vosh. I will pass the message along to Rodriguez. And we don't give a damn about Dan Quinn going to Washington. Who got the upper hand? No, seriously, that's a good question, though. Here's why. When old boy went to L.A., Wonder Bread, whatever, Kellen Moore, that's garbage. We know the Cowboys defense shut down that Kellen Moore offense all the damn time. You know, we know Dan was giving them props. So I felt very confident in that. That's a little different, though. I don't know. It's a good one. I think Mike might, if Mike continues to adapt, right? If he's going to do the same, if he's going to do the playoff-ish, nah, I don't feel confident. But if Mike continues to adapt, he'll come out a little scary like he did in this year, then I think, yeah, we could have an upper hand on Dan's defense, especially first year there. They're devoid of a lot of talent. They don't have a pass rush. Yeah, I feel real good about that for sure. I barely leave Sonny alone, man. Toxic, good morning.
Good morning, Sky. Just want to thank Hell's Angels HR rep for just calling in and showing support to the Dallas Cowboys and the Washington Commanders.
Yeah.
I appreciate it. Sonny, if you're hearing this, man, we love you. We're going to roast you because we love you.
I don't even think Sonny knows that's happening, right? To be honest.
Yeah, that's true. Back to business here. I'm going to go against the grain. I absolutely hate the Mike Zimmer hire. I don't know if his eyes can eat.
Potential.
Potential, my bad. Potential.
There we go.
Because of all the other gleaning and beautiful reps that are coming through the door through this extensive due diligence defensive coordinator
Ron
search.
Rivera. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You know, I just hope that the Star has more handicap parking space when they bring in all of these people for the interview. But, you know, it's funny because Dallas just won a World Cup bid, and I saw Jerry Jones putting more effort into winning that and showboasting about that than actually firing a defensive coordinator.
I was reading they were disappointed in that outcome. They didn't get the finals, you know? Yeah.
Yeah, but still. The reason why I don't like this hire is because if we look at the reasons why the Cowboys lost last year, and a lot of the reasons that kept reoccurring was lack of adjustments, very undisciplined football team, and they were not wanting to change. Look, saw it in the run game. We saw it in the defense. We saw it even on the offense at times. And I look at the way the modern NFL is approaching things, but you decide to not extend your head coach, which, all right, I understand. Not really. But you decide not to extend him. You then give him a vote of confidence, which doesn't make any sense. And then you're not going to even have him be a part of the staff decisions, but you want players to buy into him and play discipline for him. That makes absolutely no sense. You are
toxic. That is what I do worry about. I thought about this last night. I hope Mike doesn't. Excuse me. I hope Mike doesn't lose the team because he's on this lame duck status, and not because of Mike in the sense, but because the front office is saying, well, shit, this is your last year. Why should I, as a player, respect you as a coach? But the good thing is Mike is respected in that locker room. But I do worry. What if you get off to a rocky start, man? What happens then, Tom?
Yeah, and that's been an issue with this team. When you get punched in the face and there's adversity, how do the Cowboys? They fold faster than Superman on laundry day. It's just done. They have nothing. And we've already done this before with the last head coach who was on a lame duck year. And it fell apart as the season progressed. It was a waste of a year. And we're doing the exact same process.
Let me reel you back in, though. Because I don't think I got a reason why you're out on the Zim potential hire. Why specifically, speaking of Zimmer, why not him?
More or less, it's the process of how we're getting to Mike Zimmer, and it's a guy that Jerry Jones has an affection for. And if I'm Mike McCarthy, it's like, why are you bringing this guy back that you clearly have a soft spot for? Why are you bringing this guy in? And it's writing on the wall. To me, it's writing on the wall. It's like you're working a job. You're not going to get promoted, but your manager brought in somebody who they worked with in the past, they talk glowingly about, and now they're underneath you, and you're not really doing anything for me. To me, if I'm Mike McCarthy, I'm like, I would pull a Bobby Petrino. I would quit.
No, God.
I would quit.
No, all right, let's compartmentalize it then, because I still am not hearing anything about Zim. I'm hearing you're out on Zim because of Mike, but just thinking defense right now. Let's break this up. Why would you be out on Zim as a defensive coordinator, play caller for this team?
Well, if I look at Mike Zimmer of what happened in Minnesota, if I recall correctly, his defenses did start to falter, especially when he was against teams such as the Kyle Shanahan tree, teams that had a ton of motion.
No. According to statistics, Zim has been one of the more successful defensive coordinators against the Kyle Shanahan tree.
Then I will need to go back and rewatch the 2022 film. I think that's when he last coached.
21,
excuse me.
21.
2021. And the other reason why, I will say it because I was wrong on the first one, was I do worry that when a player or coach, especially a coach, has been away from the game for a long time, and then he comes back into the game and buys the whole, oh, well, I spent this time in a barn working this entire time. You're banking on hope. And I have been cashed out of hope for a very long time. And when I see everything else, the context of what the coaching staff is doing, the culture of the Dallas Cowboys, and seeing how this coaching staff is being assembled, it just comes to me as, okay, we're bringing in a retread that hasn't been around for a while. I hope he can adapt.
What's a wow, though,
if
bro?
It doesn't go right.
He was coaching in 21.
Go ahead.
So you're basically out on him from a psychological standpoint. You're not really saying anything from like a defensive. You're just psychologically you think he just this ain't gonna work.
I am out on more of the psychological and the process of how this is all going down. If Mike McCarthy said, I am hiring Mike Zimmer, then I would be more inclined.
The process is the process, brother.
Yeah.
Like I said, we are the Cowboys. We are a dysfunctional front office that does not run things the way they really should be run. That is a given, right? So no matter who they hire, you could actually make that case for anyone. You can make that case if it was Witt. You can make that case if it's Zim, if it's Wink, if it's Ron, if it's Bill, if it's Vrabel. The process to get to any of these guys is going to be a flawed one if we be keeping it a bean. So maybe I was more so trying to get an understanding of like just okay, Zim, who has not been removed from the game that long, as a defensive coordinator, who has been a very successful defensive coordinator, why would he not work here? But you're saying it's not really so much so to do with him per se. It's more to do with the organization, which I can't even argue with you about that aspect because we know it's a very flawed organization from the top.
And looking at it from the right now, I anticipate Mike McCarthy not being here. That's my assumption, and assumptions can change. So if this goes south, are we then potentially bringing in another coaching staff? So now we might potentially have 3 defensive coordinators in 3 different years.
That's very
Mike
possible.
Zimmer. And I'm looking at guys that we want to keep. And if we're trying to attract free agents, we're trying to attract people to be here. Are we going to develop people the right way? This just doesn't seem like a really solid recipe. But again, that's on the organization.
Yeah, that's a whole different ball game, and it's not nothing about how they've won about a lot of these things that they're doing is I think for a long-term standpoint, I think is productive. If you were looking for like a future thing, you had to fire Mike. And closing in regards to that, another thing I was thinking about, the frustrating thing about keeping Mike for what Jerry said, which is why he can be a bunch of BS more often than not, is one of his reasonings was, we saw what the year one of Mike and Dak and what he did for the offense and Dak Prescott and all this and all that. In my head, Tom, I was like, well, why the is it year 1 and not year 4 or year 3? If you would have did this 3 years ago, maybe, just maybe, he understands his flaws and what he did in the year 1 that didn't work and he tweaks it or whatever. Now you're saying I'm keeping him because the 1 year he got a chance to call the plays for Dak and to run his own offense, there was some good things that happened and maybe we could build off of it. Problem is, he's in a lame duck year. So now, how much building can he really do? How much time can he really take with a young guy or this type of in-star, that in-star? Oh, well, maybe year 1 doesn't work. We can work on it year 2 or 3. No, I don't got a next year. I got to run everything I can get. Maybe I press a little bit. Maybe I don't know. But I hate the fact that he used that as an example. Oh, well, we got to keep him because, we did such a good job year 1 and let's see what happens in year 2. Well, it may not be a year 3 when this could easily be year 4 in the system, but I digress.
That's fair. And the last question I'll have to you, and I'll leave on this note, is if Mike Zimmer is hired, is he also on a lame duck contract with Mike McCarthy? That's my final question.
All of them.
If,
okay, I got you.
All of them.
Appreciate you, man.
Thank you very much. Have a great day, everybody.
Yeah, I think any defensive coordinator that comes in here is technically on a 1 year let's see deal. The difference is, I kind of tease like a Belichick, right? Like not Bill, Steve. Then that would show me, hey, maybe Bill's next in line. Or we talked about Vrabel. If Vrabel were brought in here, very possible Vrabel could be auditioning. We kind of was keying and he with one of our callers last week, but I told you, from what I'm being told, Mike not that comfortable with this guy. I think some of it has to do with maybe not just who he is as a coach, but the potential of, hey man, this guy could be taking my job. And I thought that could have been Dan, but I think he felt comfortable in his skin with Dan because Dan, he felt like, hey man, he's gonna be a head coach somewhere before I get fired here. Especially as things progress now my first year, I kind of got a year to play around with some things. If we do well, I'm good to go. He had a contract extension, in my opinion, in the bag. If he just wins one playoff game, he just didn't have to lose to the Packers. I think he gets an extension. You lose the way you lose. Hey, Mike, if you feel some type of way about somebody being brought in, bro, that ain't changing, no matter who's brought in my opinion. Unless that person's handpicked by you. And Aiden Durde or Al Harris or Joe Witt, somebody like that. Ain't finna be picked by you, though. It's not how they roll. Chris from Alaska. Good morning, good sir.
Hey, yo, what's up? What's up, man? Hey, I want to talk about the Mike Zimmer, man. I'm all for Mike Zimmer. My number one pick, if I had, out of all the DCs, I wanted Mike Vrabel, but that's not going to happen.
Doesn't feel like it, no.
But
according to Wikipedia.
Right. No, but and I heard about you, you like Wink.
Yeah.
My opinion of Wink, though, it would worry me if he was DC just because of how aggressive he is. And obviously, it pays off. It could pay off, but also the thing about our corners we have to hold up, especially with Diggs coming off that ACL and not knowing if Diller's coming back or if we're going to grab the corner. That's the only thing that would worry me when it comes to his defense. But I'm
because
all
he's
for
aggressive.
Zimmer. No, more because he runs a lot of man. You know what I mean? And
we run a lot of man too.
Huh?
We run a lot of man too. We did.
Oh, I know. DQ, yeah. DQ ran a lot of man. I was just more thinking of Trayvon if that scheme would fit him after coming off that ACL. I'm not saying
brother,
he can't run.
I don't think you can bring in a guy based off of the health of Trayvon. Like you can't say, Diggs is coming off of an ACL. We're going to scratch this defensive coordinator because of what he. Because you're going to be Trayvon's going to be asked to run with guys, right? So I don't think you could. I think that'd be a skewed viewpoint when you're making these decisions. If that's the case, then don't put Trayvon out there, which that'll never happen.
Yeah, but also when it comes to Zimmer, bro, I really like him. He gets the best out of his talent, and I like his coaching style when it comes to being more of a hard-nosed DC or coach in general. And I really like that. I think that's something that we need as a defense.
He's no nonsense guy.
In our defense. Yeah, in our defense, I think we need that guy that's gonna get on the players' ass. You know what I mean?
Accountability
when they're not. Yeah, when they're not doing the things they need to be doing or they're missing assignments, all that. We need that type of guy. Or like what happened in Green Bay, if we get behind by 14 points, everyone's having their head low, he could be that guy to talk to them and tell them, stop slouching,
Yeah, he ain't hiding up there in the booth.
Yeah, I don't think he'd be a booth guy, though, because at least with that clip you showed, he was down there with the guys.
Yeah, I said he's not hiding up there in the booth.
Oh, okay. I thought you said if he's not hiding up.
No.
But yeah, exactly. But yeah, I'm for Zimmer. I really think we could use Micah better too as more of a chess piece, in my opinion, like GQ did Micah's rookie year, and in my opinion, that's probably his best year of his career because he was used everywhere. You know what I mean? That's just my opinion, and I think that Zimmer will be able to utilize Micah in that way with his scheme.
Yeah, that will be like the number one question I ask him is how are you using Micah, and that's something I have not been told on. But if he were to put him, yeah, go ahead.
Oh, sorry, I was gonna say also like when Akoya did his whole breakdown when they went against the Packers, Hicks was playing like Hicks, who isn't like he ain't no Micah, he ain't running that fast, but like he was even playing man at times. And I just think that if you play Micah in the middle more, not saying he can't pass rush, but if you play him a little bit more than DQ did this past year, he's definitely fast enough to cover guys. You know what I mean? And I think
Micah can do.
Really,
if Micah, if
you know what I mean?
if Zim moves him to linebacker, he's a linebacker. You won't see him. You won't see a 70-30 split, an 80-20 split defense, and like, he'll be a linebacker that blitzes. So I think that's the question they have to ask. Zim doesn't deploy a guy who's going to play 50-50 like that. He's either going to be a linebacker that blitzes in amongst the A gaps or whatnot, or he's going to be a defensive end.
Yeah.
So that's why it's tough.
Yeah.
If he's hired, I think that's one of the first questions, and it will be answered in camp and whatnot.
And if you just think of like Barr was a guy that was getting a decent amount of sacks in his system.
No. Barr wasn't
Micah
rushing that
compared
much.
to Barr. But Micah compared to Barr when they were rushing in his system, or you know what I mean. Micah's the better pass rusher, which could really benefit that scheme as well when it comes to the double gap. So, but I appreciate you letting me call in. You have a great day.
All right, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, I think that's something that they'll have to answer that question. I don't think you're going to see him being used like how Dan was using him, in the sense of he's either going to be primarily defensive end or he'll moonlight at linebacker. He's going to be one or the other, I think, if they bring this guy in here. Zim don't play around with that nonsense. Mm-hmm. All right, we got three more. Let's kind of say our points, or if it's a question, and then we'll discuss it after, so we can get through everybody. Nacho, good morning, sir.
Oh man, how you doing?
All right.
Been a while. Hope all is well. Hey, listen, in terms of all in, home run hire, whatever you got to do to get the fan base, give us some sense of optimism moving forward is going to be very key. In terms of the Mike Zimmer, I'm with you 110%. At this stage of the game, you got to bring somebody who's going to hold players accountable. If what we see on the sidelines when this team is down and no one is talking to no one's getting on anybody's face, Zim will get on somebody's ass and put them to the point of accountability or get out if you can't play them.
Yeah.
So I like that aspect of it. At this stage of the game, depending on what happens moving forward, obviously with the situation with, Quinn now leaving, obviously, Witt is now joining him. I know Al Harris is a popular guy in the building. At the same time, I just don't know that Al Harris has the experience as a defensive coordinator in comparison to more of a, he's more of a secondary DB positional coach, if you will.
Yeah, I don't think Al Harris. I mean, right now Al Harris is not interviewing for the position. Again, I never got the sense that he even wants to be a DC at this moment.
Okay. So within that, would you say that, in terms of the draft as well as we look ahead and free agency, something's got to give. Do you feel that? I don't know if I think it was Michael Gelkin who had written something early, either during the week or this morning, something about that it's kind of like if you read between the tea leaves, they're not going to give Pollard a big contract. They're going to sway a different way. If he wants to come back,
you ain't need to read Michael Gelkin to know that, brother.
Yeah. I can see that, right? Yeah, right. So my thing is this, though: can we go get a veteran Derrick Henry, a Saquon Barkley, and then draft a young back in the draft, and then start moving in the direction of the defense. Go get yourself some linebackers, some O-line, bring in Zimmer, allow him to build what he's got to build, and he may end up helping Mike McCarthy if, in that type of route. Other than that, I mean, I don't know. I mean, who else other than Zimmer would you consider at this point to be your second-tier D coordinator?
I like Wink Martindale, man. But all good points there, Nacho. Appreciate the call, man.
All right, my man. Have a good one.
You as well.
Okay, bye-bye.
551. What it is, what it do? Uh-oh. 551, you
Hello?
live.
Okay,
There you go.
551, I'm live. Okay. I would challenge any podcast host or any fan to challenge themselves and give this a thought.
Okay.
Name one Super Bowl team that had two middle linebackers with neck fusion surgery, safeties playing linebackers, defensive linebackers playing defensive end. If you thought that would win a Super Bowl, you're delusional.
Yeah,
Thank you. Not you personally, still, but I'm saying any fan or any.
I don't even think that's a challenging question right there, brother. Because
it's a challenging.
How many teams have done that? I doubt many, if any, have had guys like that on their team and safeties playing linebacker all damn year winning Super Bowls. Yeah.
And not only that, playing nickel and dime as a base.
Well,
I mean,
nickel is kind of the base in the league now anyway, but not personnel matching is really what you're getting at. Not matching personnel. Yeah.
You're absolutely right. You made the point before I could make the point. The matching of personnel to formation is Dallas's number one issue on defense. You're absolutely right. And thank you.
No, that's all you got?
I mean, for that's all we need. And once first of all, the Cowboys fans stop being delusional and watching football, thinking these type of things could work.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe your feelings wouldn't be hurt at the end of the season. I thought that the Cowboys couldn't win the Super Bowl because of the personnel matching situation.
Fair.
You can't run out linebackers playing defensive end, and you can't play two middle linebackers with neck fusion. Who thinks that could stop the run?
Dan Quinn.
No one. Well,
that's about it. That's the only one I know in the league, brother. Yeah.
Well, he's delusional.
Yeah, he was delusional with that thought. Hey, good call, man.
Thank you.
Mm. Yeah, I'd imagine that was a rhetorical one because I don't recall many. And that was our issue. I mean, we can go all the way back here on this show. If you've watched this show dating, I mean, we don't even got to go to camp. We can go this specific time, actually. February of last year. Do we need to get linebackers? Get linebackers, move on from LVE. We were talking about Bobby Wagner. We were talking about drafting guys. Like, we need backers. And they never did it. But what we didn't think that they would do is once they lost guys, they'd move a safety down. What? All right, Dan, let's see where this goes. And did not work out. I mean, it had its moments or whatever, but this was clearly a front-running defense. 100% a front-running defense. And you can't build it that way. You need a defense that is solid in its fundamentals and its base. And not some, what do I call it, this gimmicky, little cute stuff. Come on, man. We don't need all that. We don't need you to reinvent the wheel. You go look at these defenses in the game, Super Bowl, if you want to talk about Super Bowl. But the division or the NFC Championship, AFC Championship games, they're not doing all this goofy, funny stuff. At the end of the day, yeah, while some things from the game have changed, there's also things that are just basic foundations of football that My guy's bigger than your guy. Usually my guy that's bigger is gonna win. You know what I mean? But Dan, and again, I kind of jokingly said this a couple weeks ago when we did our review of, not even our review, we're actually going to do that this week. We talked about J-Ron. Inadvertently, I'm blaming J-Ron. Inadvertently. Not fully, just a little bit. Because I think when he was put in that position, he did so damn good in 2021. He gave Dan Quinn this false confidence that, oh, we can always do this. Yeah, you threw a wrinkle and everything in 2021, and it worked for the most part. But teams adapt. The Cowboys didn't. Or should I say Dan didn't? Good morning, Banks.
What's going on, Sky? Good morning, morning. Hey, real quick, man, be quick for you. One thing I hope, man, whoever the DC is coming in, which I wouldn't think they would, especially being they new, and just putting the as we said all season, man, putting the right guys on the field and not play favorites. And I would hope it's not any favorites, just coming in, but I don't think a guy like Zimmer would just off and just also, man, just keeping the players is not disciplined. Undisciplined players being undisciplined time and time again. Keeping, you got to keep them guys off the field also.
That seems to be a Cowboys thing for whatever reason over the last 2 decades. It's like no matter who's in here, the Cowboys just aren't a disciplined team.
Yeah, it's not, man. But like you said, I don't know if it's distractions or whatever it may be, man. But maybe that's why they're looking for somebody, just an older mind, somebody more disciplined, not a new DC, and not more so within in-house. Of course, we lost to Washington.
Yeah,
but
I never believed that Jones was going to hire anybody in-house because nobody in-house had experience.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. It'd been nice if Wick maybe could have stayed for. I mean, I'm quite sure he wouldn't, versus a DC job. But if he didn't get anything, we could have kept him maybe for like, as far as what he was doing the secondary and all, pass game coordinator. But I think we're gonna take a little hit with that also, personally. Depending on who we bring in.
I think it depends.
But
yeah, I'm TBD on that because a lot of people said the same thing about losing Kellen Moore. Oh, the Cowboys offense, man, they're going to take a hit, man. They're not going to be. Next thing you know, they're breaking all kinds of records right now. In the playoffs, offense, defense didn't show up, but I do think it is a TBD. Let's see who they bring in. Let's see the draft, free agency, maybe get some camp, and then we can form a more educated opinion. But even if they bring in somebody I'm not a favorite for, like a Ron, like I'm not a favorite for Ron, but let's see how they move forward. Maybe Ron gets you linebackers. Maybe he brings in a more discipline, like you said. Maybe he runs a more sound. Who knows? And then we get a chance to see it. But no matter who they bring in, I kind of got to wait and see a little bit before I make a conclusion. Like, man, we're going to miss Dan Quinn. The players might miss him.
Yeah.
But maybe the team improves from not having such a buddy Uncle Dan Quinn up in the booth when things is going wrong. He's good and safe up there.
Yeah. And that's what I said, man. I was like, we don't need a buddy head coach. I seen, when Diaz tweeted the other day, he was like Al for DC, and somebody on Twitter was like, forgot what I said, but somebody commented back was like, you see what Trey said, Al for DC. I'm like, of course he wanted the buddy coach.
Of course he wanted his position coach to be the defense. Of course. That's his guy.
Yeah,
right?
Of course.
Nah, man.
No. That's his guy. Yeah,
Al ain't running defense.
So,
he ain't even come close to running the defense. At least Joe Witt put together defensive pass game strategies, excuse me. Al has never done that.
Exactly.
So he would have been so green in this situation. It's just I think he knows I'm green and I'm not ready for this.
Yeah. Hey, my last point. As long as whoever come in, I don't know who decision it was, whether it was Dan, Joe Witt, or Al, who had our guys, and this wasn't the first game. Like you said a few days ago, in Green Bay, we playing, it's third and 6, 3rd and 8, and we playing 10 yards off a tight end, but we done that time and time again. It that wasn't the first game, man. There was plenty of weeks we did that, man. It's 3rd and 3, and we playing
we did
8
it
yards
against
off
Philly.
the line of scrimmage, man.
3rd and
so,
19 or 3rd and 15. I remember specifically Gilmore is playing so far off the ball, and A.J. Brown runs a quick slant, and he gets I think it was 3rd and 15. It might have been 19. I don't know. And he gets a lot. He gets a big chunk. He gets a chunk, and they're like, oh, this is enough to go for it. So they go for it, and they convert, and they score a touchdown. So, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. But that's all I got, man. I know you gotta go.
Appreciate you, Banks.
Okay. All right, guys.
Interesting question, my brother L. He says, Sky, if you're a viable vet with at least 2 solid years left in the league, would you sign with Dallas knowing that they're in this lame duck turmoil? How much bread they getting? I am more convinced than any point in time in the history of this game where the money reside for these players. If X organization is willing to pay me $5 million more than another organization, whether that's the Chiefs or the Colts, they getting that bread, especially if they on the way out. I feel like they're going to go where the money reside. Yeah. Now, I know they come out here and they say, I think even, what's the dude's name? They used to play over there in Tennessee. Taylor Lewan. He said something along the lines of Derrick Henry, hey, man, he wants to play for, a threat, a team that has the ability to be a threat, et cetera, et cetera. But if Jacksonville says Derrick will pay you 10, and that threatening team says Derrick will pay you 2, you know what I'm saying? So where the money reside? Are we talking $1 million difference, $500,000? What incentives? I think that plays a factor. Perfect example. Somebody said Hopkins. Hopkins went and played. Now DeAndre, you know damn well. Ryan Tannehill. A team that was quite literally built like 1995. Son. So yeah, it kind of really depends on that. Now, I'm thinking about guys like Bobby Wagner, maybe Levante David. These guys are really long in the tooth. They could, maybe they'll say my preference is comfort. Maybe my preference is, you know what? I'll go play with Dan. I know Washington's going to suck, but I know the defense. I don't got to learn nothing new. They paying me enough where I'm cool for this year or whatever. But if the Cowboys really wanted a specific free agent, they could have them because I'm talking about brands. You ain't just going to make money from your guarantee. You're going to make money from if you are on social media, if you get some gigs outside of this, if you have your own podcast. Like I'm telling you, man, that star adds extra value. And the Joneses, they push that. That's just facts. They do. They push that. So fair question, 100%. Great question. I think we just too much context in the middle left out for me to answer. That's all. Sky, loyalty only extends the length of the dollar bill. I gotta give you one of these. Bill Bates, you support JJ doing it? Is that a question? Oh, you said, oh, you talking to somebody in it. Steven strikes still them boys as a type that doesn't want to do nothing that isn't his idea. I don't know how I feel about them boys. All right, let me go back here. Refresh this one more time for the one time. Good stuff today. Again, me and Mo talking about it. They may not even hire him, but in my opinion, he's the favorite as we speak. We'll see what happens after they get Ron Rivera in here. I don't think Dirty is going to matter. We'll see maybe if they get Wink. I know they're interested in talking to him. Quote. We'll see if they bring him in here, but I feel like Zim is the leading candidate. He's the favorite. And I don't necessarily think it's a bad thing, just purely from a defensive standpoint. And we laid it all out today. I told you some of the things that intrigued me with him. Obviously, the split mug fronts, the pattern matching that he does, the coverages. He has shown the ability to adapt. If you kind of dig a little bit, you'll know he's not a guy that's a happy camper when things get figured out. He's trying to switch some things up and to adapt. Does it always work? Probably not. But if you give him some guys, and I think Dallas got some guys to begin with, and add some more guys, I do think he could be a plus, not a minus to this defense side of the ball. Enough to overcome the BS. That's a discussion for another day, and I get that whole situation. But just specifically talking about the defense, I am 100% in on Zim. And just like Dan Quinn years ago, we'll see what happens. Dan got a lot of backlash when he was hired here. And that first year, he was fantastic for the Cowboys. Now, obviously, that soured on the way out, but it was a net positive, I think, clearly, given what happened the previous years. G-Dub. So we got 2 on the way out. G-Dub says, under Zim, the Cowboys won't lead the league in penalties on defense. Hope not. But it seems to be a Cowboy thing. They will be tougher and more disciplined, which they need as much as scheme. I agree with that. 100% think they would be a tougher defense, a more disciplined and more discipline. The discipline is within the scheme too, G-Dub. 100% within the scheme as well. I don't. If you go back and you watch teams like the Chiefs, Baltimore, even Detroit. Detroit they were a bit undisciplined on the back end. But the Chiefs, Baltimore, San Francisco, the Bills is a good one. Miami, like you see these guys moving on a string on that back end. They are disciplined in their drops. They're disciplined in whether it be pattern matching. They're just a disciplined, sound defense. We didn't do a whole lot of that in the back end, and that's why you saw coverage breakdowns in these most inopportune times. They couldn't handle X, Y, Z, right? So I do think discipline within the scheme is definitely a thing with Mike Zimmer. Aaron says, my only worry is how much split safety Zimmer uses. Well, if you guys remember when I brought up who I think benefits, I do think the safeties benefit. I think split safeties is, I don't understand why we didn't do more of it. It's 2023. What are we doing? You're running all this cover one and you got like one safety who can do it. But the problem is these offenses know how to dice up that single high man stuff. Are you kidding me? Now you say, all right, Wanye and Malik and Dono, or Dono might play a lot of that overhang stuff. I like the split safety stuff way more because now they got half of a field that they can cover. And I know Malik and Wanye from an IQ standpoint can operate that, and they have that kind of click trigger to be able to make some plays on the ball. Bell didn't get a chance to play much safety. We don't know, but Bell go back to safety. We'll see. I've seen Dono do this. If you go back and watch when Dono got inserted in 2020, the one game that comes up, that comes to mind, I think it was San Fran. And I'm not saying I don't want Dono playing a bunch of cover or all like that too much. But if you just give him half a field and he made plays on the ball. So I do think Zim would actually improve the safety play. I think they got the players to improve the safety play. I'm much more in favor for split safeties as opposed to single high guy on the roof because you only had one that you were confident enough to put out there anyway. And then you're putting man coverage behind it. And you got these Shanahan tree dudes just absolutely destroying that. Destroying it. And instead of, we're going to put J-Ron back there. What are we doing? J-Ron Curse back there, you putting guys back there that can move. They ain't got the biscuit hips. So I'm all for it. I actually, if they bring in Zim, that's one of the things, aside from the linebackers improving, that I'd be like, okay, now our safeties can be safeties. You know? And then still the boys dropped 5 and said, we need to hop into Jones's dreams like the movie Inception. Trust me, now we're about to get into, if I could do some power things, me and my son talk about this a lot. We're big Marvel fans, superhero fans. We'd have had multiple Super Bowls by now, bro. Multiple. Yeah, Gregory, I don't disagree with that. He said, I agree on the most part about the free agent thing, but he said, I feel some are guys playing with the hope of wearing a ring one day. And if your team doesn't have a chance to get the Super Bowl, money not enough. I can't really shoot all of that down. I'm pretty sure there's somebody out there, possibly, Levante got a ring. So does Bobby. I don't know. Some veteran let's go back to say somebody like Larry Fitzgerald. Maybe if the Chiefs called Larry and said, hey, come back, don't retire, he'd go and play because he played for 20 damn years. He got maybe. I can't argue with you on that one. I do think probably majority of these guys are going to go where the money resides, though. And that's it. All right. I'll be on later with Vach unless something changes here. I know we got an altered schedule this offseason, obviously, with the draft happening. With Senior Bowl just now happening. I'm not sure if we'll get to it this week. We'll see, because the draft can linger for a long time. But I do want to finish up the Hindsight series, and tomorrow we're going to pick that back up, reviewing a lot of positions, ironically on defense. We're talking defensive coordinators, so we'll continue to finish up the series on defense. And as we go this week, we will find out about who the Cowboys defensive coordinator is. Whether it's the end of this week or whether it's next week, we'll know. But we'll also see guys coming in. We got, obviously, Zim will be in a Tuesday, from what I'm told. Ron or probably Durde, one of those two guys are being interviewed today. And maybe more names will get added to the list. If so, we'll be here and we'll be talking about it. 100%, y'all. With that said, appreciate y'all for being here. Press this button.
Push the goddamn button. Push the goddamn button.
No problem, Miss Jackie. Appreciate you. Get better with zone. Yeah. We ain't want to run that. And I don't even think we brought people in to do it. You had like 4 strong safeties on this team and 1.5 freeze. What you doing, man? All right. Love y'all. We out here.
Bomb Squad!